Hello, Howard, and the rest of individuals.
Hey, Jewel, long time no talk to.
How are you doing today?
Hello? Hello?
Hey, Doc, I'm here. You're up.
Hi, Doc.
Oh, okay. Because my screen looks different. Look, something's wrong with my screen. But you can hear me clearly, Howard?
We can, Doc.
Okay. All right, then I'm good then.
You're real clear. And you got a little box with a T in it.
Yeah, but I got a half a screen with the WebEx. When I tried to get in earlier, it's like behind, and I can only see half of the people who are signed on. Let me try a couple things here and see.
Maybe even get all the way out and come all the way back.
I think I'm trying. Now, I'll leave it there.
Calendar went off.
Let's see tonight. Much more still on Action News Wednesday evening. Your exclusive live with the forecast. We call it like that.
Action News Sports is sponsored by Verizon Fios. Mix and match your internet and TV plans on 100% fiber optic network. This is internet and TV built right. Go to getfios.com to learn more. Verizon built.
All right, who's watching Action News?
That was me.
Howard, what happened to the Eagles?
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Good evening, Mrs. Pitts. Very, very kind of you to pipe in at just that right time.
Good evening, Mr. Long. Good evening, Miss Peterson.
Good evening. How are you?
All right. Good evening, Miss Mitchell.
Good evening. How's everyone?
Okay.
How about them Cowboys?
I don't know who they are. They don't exist in my world.
Mama, don't let your baby grow up to be cowboys, they said.
Amen to that, Mr. Long.
Good evening, Mr. Morella.
Hello, Ms. Pitts.
How are
Good
you?
evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
How you doing, Ms. Peterson?
I'm doing wonderful about them Cowboys.
We got to hear this already?
Yeah,
That was a stroke of luck.
wasn't it? But a win is a win.
You'll take a W, right? Can you believe these guys didn't get on that ball? Atlanta, they all choke.
Did you see the new stadium in Las Vegas?
It's amazing. It's
Isn't
unbelievable.
that?
Wow.
It really is.
One in LA cost $5 billion to build.
Yes.
With a B?
Yes.
The Jerry's World in Dallas cost $2 billion. The one in LA was
Oh, gosh. That's, I mean, does sports really mean that much? I mean, are sports really that important? I guess so, huh?
Yes, it is.
Money machines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Miss Thomas, good evening, Miss Thomas. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Good evening, Mr. Bina.
Good evening, Ms. McClendon. Is she muted?
She must be.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Ms.
evening.
McClendon. Uh-oh, there's a little puppy dog again out here.
Oh, that's Mr. Scholl joining. This would be a good time for me to mute the dog.
Mr. Shaw has joined us.
Good evening, Ms. Pitts.
Good evening. Good evening, Ms. Martin. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you? Good evening, members.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Sure. No, I didn't silence that thing.
You got a couple letters cut off, Mr. Long.
More than a couple.
What is he doing?
What is he doing? Is he saying something nasty?
Move it over a little bit more. There you go.
There you go.
So you know Mr. Shaw is on now.
I guess Mr. Shaw didn't notice.
Mr. Shaw, you should be helping me.
Do you see Mr. Long?
Because the Eagles are 0-2.
No, we weren't talking about the Eagles.
No,
I
we're
think
talking
that
about
was
the Eagles.
fine.
Look at Mr. Long.
No, we won't talk about the
Mr.
Eagles.
Long. Hey, Mr. Long, a win is a win, whether it's 1 point or not.
Okay, we're looking at 4 minutes. Let me just, I think, yeah. Dr. Poteet, are you with us?
Should be on.
Looks
Mrs.
like
Pitts,
it.
he had some trouble earlier, and I know he was trying to rework his way back into it. He had an issue with a half a screen.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
He was
Dr. Carcom, are you with us? I see they're blocked. Mr. Davis, are you with us? They must be muted.
Dr. Poteet is on and muted. Mrs.
I'm
Brooks
here.
muted.
Mr. Davis is present.
On it.
Mr. Davis,
Mr.
Dr.
Davis,
Poteet,
Mr. Davis is on and muted.
I heard Mr. Davis. Dr. Carcamo? Are they muted?
Nobody asked, but I'm here.
Wait a minute. That wasn't Miss Martin, was it?
Miss Boyle here.
Miss Boyle.
That was Miss.
I said,
Well,
oh,
you were
boy.
next on my list. You were next on my list.
Mrs. Boyle requested all live video.
Two minutes and counting, ladies and gentlemen. But while we have the 2 minutes, I just want to say right now I apologize for any background noise that you hear. The roofers are still here. They've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. I'm having my total roof replaced, and along with that comes a total kind of headache. because it sounds like there's about 10 Martians up on my roof running around, and every once in a while it sounds like they drop a bomb. So I really must apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I could not change the date, and so here we are.
You picked a good week to do it.
Oh, did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my husband has to take that credit for that, John, because I have nothing to do with it. And if it's too much background noise, blame him. Blame him.
No rain, nice week to do it.
Is it?
Weather-wise, yeah, so it's a perfect week to do it.
Okay, I kind of thought, silly me, I thought they would be gone by 5 o'clock. Well, no, because they got here at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
7 o'clock.
Probably union carpenters. They know they get to be about 120 an hour when they get over 5 hours in a day.
Oh. Is that true, John?
They make more money than lawyers.
For me, it is.
Oh, for you it is, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
I run the work.
Lights, camera, action. I have 6 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
6 o'clock.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Winslow Township Board of Education's regular board meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates, and a notice dated August 31st, 2020. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in all schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, the Bud Dubel Center, Edgewood Acre, Elmtown, and the Winslow Township post offices. And this is our mission statement. The mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, is to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and caring and confident members of their community. The district, in partnership with the community and in a climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity, encourages students to strive for personal excellence, and assists them in acquiring the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to contribute positively to a rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blake?
Mr. Blake will be absent this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Dredden?
Ms. Dredden will be absent this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Present.
Ms. McClendon?
Present.
Ms. Mitchell?
Ms. Mitchell?
Muted.
She's muted, but she's there.
Ms. Mitchell? She's muted?
Yes.
Present.
Okay.
Mr. Shaw?
Present.
Ms. Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Peterson?
Present.
And Ms. Pitts?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Can we now recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
Of the
States.
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move to our district goals, I would just like to say to the community, please excuse any of the background noise that you may be hearing from me, as I'm not able to mute, but I'm having my roof repaired, so please excuse any annoying background noise that you may hear. Ms. Martin, would you read our district goals, 2020-2021 district goals, please?
Yes, Madam President. Student achievement, continue to implement best practices for delivering instruction to students utilizing all available and appropriate instructional modes. This shall include A, ensuring articulation at all grade levels throughout the district. B, focus on classroom instruction at all grade levels. C, ensuring all students have equal access to equipment and resources needed to facilitate and promote student learning in any setting. D, evaluation and updating all district programs. E, accountability of all district staff. 2, continue to foster a positive school environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. A, focus on building relationships among staff that will result in increased learning and more effective instruction. B, promote creative instruction, training, and retraining. C, emphasis on collaboration with all district stakeholders. D, promote cultural competence throughout the district. E, teacher to student relationships. And F, student to student relationships. 3, market our strengths and achievements to all stakeholders to increase capacity for greater parent, caregiver, community support. A, continue with our public relations marketing plan. B, continue to work with the various advisory committees in the district. C, examine communication methods utilized by the district.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Moving now to awards and presentations. Dr. Poteet?
Madam President, there are no presentations this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Correspondence. Would there be any correspondence this evening?
We have none this evening, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now to minutes. At this time, board members, I'm asking for you a motion to approve the following board minutes from our regular meeting that was held September 9th, 2020, open session.
Move Shaw.
Second, Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Further questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. McClendon?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Bull. Moving now, board members, to our committee board reports. Would there be a committee report out of our operations committee?
Yes, there is, Madam President. The Operations Committee met on Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 at 5 p.m. using WebEx. In attendance were Ms. Dredden, Committee Chair, Mr. Shaw, and Mrs. Mitchell. Also in attendance were Ms. Boyle, Ms. Chico, and Mr. Mills. The following items were discussed. The committee discussed the status of capital projects, prior year projects, freezer addition. The district is in litigation with J.H. Williams. The matter did not settle during the mediation, which was held in August, not in September.
No.
The release of liens has still not been delivered to the district for closeout. Mr. Long continues to represent the interests of the district. High school flooring replacement project. The district solicitor has a notice to Two Brothers Bonding Company. No update to report at this time. High school addition. The classroom additions is subsequently complete. Received the temporary certificate of occupancy on June 9th, 2020. Due to COVID-19, the delivery and installation of the elevator was delayed. Elevator is on site with installation scheduled to begin in mid-October. September 2020 projects. 2020 summer projects. PA replacement project includes the emergency alarm system. Work in all schools is underway. Wires are being pulled and work is proceeding on time. The greenhouse project. The concrete footings have been poured and the pad is scheduled to be installed this week. The project is currently on schedule. The curriculum office renovations, demo of modular unit, and parking lot expansion project at the middle school campus. Drywall is being installed in the curriculum offices. The modular unit is in the process of being demolished, after which work on the parking lot will begin. Administration renovation project. The mercury abatement has been completed. Wall and framing and drywall continue. The project is on schedule. School 2 parking lot expansion, School 3 parking lot drainage, and School 6 circulation projects. All sites are substantially complete. The vendor is now focusing on the foul ball protection netting at the baseball field at the high school. Recommissioning and certification of the HVAC systems. The district has contracted with CM3 Building Solutions to perform the recommissioning and certification of the HVAC systems in all district schools at the cost of $238,414.10. The estimated completion date is the end of November. The district is also working with Ron Schwanke of Land Associates, the district appointed architect, to investigate the installation of bipolar ionization district-wide and possibilities of installing the units during the commissioning process. This could be a potential cost savings for the district. Once solid costs for installation are in hand, we will begin the process of reallocating funding and securing necessary approvals to move the process forward. The budget development process. Committee reviewed the budget development process and the time it takes to get capital projects introduced, approved, and implemented. It is not a quick process and can take up to 1 to 2 years. Free and reduced lunch applications. As compared to this time last year, there are 356 fewer students that have had their lunch status updated by completing the free and reduced lunch application. Although meals are currently being provided to all children 18 and under, residents of Winslow Township, once the program ends, the students will be charged according to their status at that time. If a new application has not been processed, free and reduced students will convert to a paid status. New items. Uniform applications. 2 applications covering 6 students. Both applications are pending, waiting for original receipts. The meeting adjourned at 5:40 p.m. The next meeting is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Very, very comprehensive. Board members, would there be any questions or comments for the report out of the Operations Committee? Well, thank you. Hearing none, moving now, would there be a report out of the Education Committee?
Yes, Madam President. The Education Committee met on Monday, September 21st, 2020 at 4 p.m. Were Julie Peterson, Chair, Rita Martin, and Dr. Quackabo. Student enrollment as of that date was for 4,718. We have some staff training going on, including Google Classroom using videos and creating classroom, intro to reading, an overview of our new textbooks. We have social emotional learning workshops and activities. Topics include 1, developing socially and emotionally healthy students. 2, enhancing social emotional learning with a focus on special education. 3, designing learning experiences for remote and blended learning. 4, tech tools for high impact learning. 5, developing text-dependent questions which support deep level discussions. And 6, developing mathematics learners and doers. The adoption of new learning materials include textbooks, social studies at the middle school and the high school, math at the middle school, math at the high school, which is algebra, algebra 2, and geometry, Spanish introductory for high school, teen health for middle school, science for the high school, which includes environmental science and marine science. The schedule is established by the building principals to increase instructional time. And there was also a conversation about engineers teaching algebra. Through investigation, we found that the cost per student would be $15 per student, averaging between 200 and 300 students, which would bring the cost to $3,000 or $4,500. The question becomes which students should be selected, when would the program occur, and at this particular time, we're not recommending exploring the program at this time. Our meeting ended at 4:30. This concludes our report.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Board members, would there be any questions or comments with regards to the report out of our Education Committee? Thank you. Moving now, Mr. Shaw, I know there's always a double for you. So marketing or athletic, whichever one you choose to go with.
Start with the athletic committee, Madam President. The athletic committee met on September 21st at 5:30 p.m. In attendance were myself, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Blake, and Dr. Poteet. The first topic of discussion were the buses that Mr. Gaskell helped set up for the athletes for the middle school and high school. So thank you very much for coordinating that and making that a smooth situation for all our athletes. Middle school sports signups. Right now we stand right around 50 athletes for the middle school, and signups are still continuing, so we expect those numbers to go up. Middle school practices started yesterday. As of September 14th, everybody started practicing on the high school level, so they're practicing daily. Just a quick update as what's going on for boys soccer. As we know, Camden County Tech, they canceled all their fall sports, so their boys soccer team players came in and merged with our boys soccer team. I believe that was most of their team are Winslow soccer players, so that's a good thing for our kids to come back home to the Winslow soccer team. So that gives our athletic program like a huge boost of community, especially during this pandemic. The cross-country boys and girls program started a little bit earlier this summer to prepare for shaping up for a unique season. They have about 30 runners that came out. Cheerleading. There's about 30 student athletes that registered, and they're prepared to keep their spirits high and motivate our players to victory, especially during the home opener against Camden this season. Let's see. Football. The Winslow Township football team has been preparing diligently for their home opener versus Camden on Saturday, October 3rd. They had a successful and safe preseason. Jalen Cheek has verbally committed to Boston College on a full athletic scholarship. And this one really, being I'm a military vet, this one really has me. Jaden Brown, has committed to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. We all know any one of the academies is really hard to get into. So that my highest regard for that young man.
The pride of Winslow.
Yes, ma'am. Just a note: the football games are mostly going to be on Saturday nights, Friday nights, because there's a shortage of officials. Mm-hmm. So everybody knows why we're not playing Friday under the Friday night lights.
Okay.
And as previously stated, The home opener will be on October 3rd, and the seniors will be honored for their commitment and dedication to the program. And all board members will be welcome and administration to share in that momentous occasion. One note about the football game. Due to COVID regulations, 500 people will be allowed in attendance. 300 people for the home team. 200 tickets will be given out for the visiting team. So they will be keeping, there'll be monitors keeping track of all the COVID-related issues going on. So that way we keep a very strict check on everything going on. If anybody is found to have any COVID-related symptoms, there will be an isolation area where they will sit and then wait to be rechecked. So at that point, they will, if they are found to have any related symptoms, they will be asked to leave and probably be asked to go to a doctor or wherever they have to go for the related issues. We'll move on to field hockey.
Mr. Shaw, just one question with regards to the football games. What time do they start?
I don't have time on Saturday, October 3rd for the football game.
Okay.
The one thing I don't have noted down.
Okay.
So I can find out for everybody. Or
That's
Dr.
fine.
He may be able to help us out with that one.
Not at this time, Mr. Shaw. I don't have the times. Normally Saturdays or afternoons, but we still have the option as the home team to have it as a night game. So that is a decision Mr. Morella and or Mr. Whitaker can make. But normally Saturday games are afternoons, but as a school district, the home team can establish their start time.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Poteet.
All right. And last month I reported that the field hockey had numbers that were unfortunate and they might not have a team. Well, I'm happy to report that they have enough to have a team, and their first game is against Paul VI on October 1st. They have 16 girls that actually signed up now and are ready to play.
Okay, good news.
So, and girls tennis, they are coming out and they're ready to play. And last year's team was 12-4, led by Gabriella Robinson at first singles, who earned first team all conference. And Jada Silva and Nia Todd also competed at second and third singles, and all will be returning to challenge those at those positions. And Haley Cox is a great addition to from the team last year, earning all conference honors. And I'm going to mess up this young lady's name. Vanessa, Dr. Poteet, help me out with this one. Vanessa, do you know how to pronounce her last name? Because I don't want to mess it up. I don't think he heard me.
Dr. Poteet? Well, Vanessa, we'll settle for Vanessa, Mr. Shaw. That's fine.
She was first team all conference, and then Kate Bellarda and Tamara Henderson will challenge to compromise first and second doubles, or to comprise of first and second doubles, along with our new arrivals. Newcomers Rihanna Jackson, Tahaya Kilburn, and Lila will challenge to crack into the varsity lineup.
Okay.
The first game will be first match will be against Paul VI on September 28th. And then girls soccer, last but not least. They're seeing growth on their team with all their skills. They have 2 seniors, so they're going to be a young group of girls this year. So we should have a lot of talent for a few years to come. So there's a lot of talent coming up at the girls soccer level. So we have a lot to look forward to with our athletic program.
Okay, good news. That's good news, Mr. Shaw.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Peterson.
I had promised one of the football players that I was going to attend the first game. So the first game is at 7 p.m. on Saturday, October the 3rd.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
You're welcome.
And I will jump right into the marketing committee meeting. That was at 6:30 on Monday, September 21st. In attendance were Ms. Thomas and Dr. Poteet, myself, and Mr. Blake. That meeting was again virtual. The main discussion on the agenda for the marketing committee was a virtual town hall. We decided that the best course of action for a virtual town hall with the community was to have it after we got through at least one marking period of remote learning, after the assessment and certification of the HVAC ventilation system was done. That way, any issues, concerns, the movement into hybrid remote face-to-face learning could be addressed by the community, and it gives us time to set forth an agenda with every and we can move and have it solidified sometime in December.
Okay.
So that was the main topic, and also to put out there from the marketing committee, in case anybody in the public hasn't already heard, New Jersey is offering childcare assistance to those who have an income under $75,000 for children under the age from 5 to 13. The website is www.childcarenewjersey.gov. If you go on that website and look, and you can apply for that assistance.
Okay, that is good news, Mr. Shaw. And perhaps we could put that website up on our website as a form of information for the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Shaw. Board members, any questions, comments for Mr. Shaw's two reports that were very comprehensive? Okay. Moving now, board members, to the policy committee. The policy committee met on Thursday, September 17th, 2020 at 4 p.m. We met in person at the Board of Education building. Present was Ms. Rita Martin, Ms. Abina McClendon, Mr. Dion Davis, Dr. Dorothy Carcamo, and Cheryl Pitts. Myself. Topic discussed. We discussed the policy number 5511, which is, you all know, the dress and grooming policy. At the September 9th meeting, a concern was raised about the discrepancy in the dress and grooming policy regarding the color options for physical education wear. After reviewing the policy, the committee is recommending the following changes. On page 2 of the policy, item number 6 was rewritten to read: sweat pants, gym shorts, gray, navy, dark green, may be worn on gym days. Students will be asked to wear sneakers on their gym days. T-shirts must be gray or dark green. The second revision exists on page 3. Under accessories, the following statement was added: any article of clothing or decoration, such as patches or badges, containing obscene or offensive language, symbols or phrases that create a nuisance, disturbance, or draw undue attention in the classroom or on the school grounds is prohibited. And lastly, on page 4, under uniform dress code for all students doing physical education, the color navy was added to items number 2 and items number 3. Under item number 3, the word suit was removed and the word pants added. In addition, there was a brief discussion regarding the colors required for masks. The recommendation was a solid color while attending school. However, a student would not be turned away because of the color of the mask. Dr. Carcamo reminded the committee that the district purchased masks for both students and staff. Therefore, the issue of masks should not be a concern. She then provided each committee member with masks purchased by the district that was in green with a capital W in white for staff and older students. Additional masks purchased for students were solid black with a green capital W on it. Dr. Carcamo also shared that disposable masks were also purchased by the district. Another brief discussion took place regarding making additional changes to the dress and grooming policy to remove leggings, jeggings, and stirrups as unacceptable dress. The committee decided to keep this statement in the policy. Since the changes to policy number 5511 were minor, the committee decided to place the revisions as a board agenda item for approval and not as a reading. The meeting ended at approximately 5:20 p.m. The next policy meeting will be announced at our October board meeting. Would there be any comments or questions with regards to the policy committee report?
I have a suggestion, Madam President, if I may.
Yes, Ms. McClendon.
Just want to also state that, just so that the public knows, we do understand that manufacturers are making school uniform pants in the way of being leggings or jeggings. We understand that, and those are acceptable when it comes down to the school uniform. However, when we talked about leggings, we talked about the thin type of material that can be see-through that are not acceptable. So we just want to let the public know that we do understand that those clothing makers, manufacturers are making them with that type of material as jeggings or leggings, and those things are acceptable. But as far as leggings, the see-through tight fit, those are still not acceptable. So I just wanted to add that statement.
Thank you, Ms. McClendon, for that clarification. That was important.
Thank you, Madam President.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you, board members. Now, moving on, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the superintendent's report that begins at the middle of page 2 and on our agenda continues through to the upper portion of page 5. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second, Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Miss Martin?
Yes.
Miss McClendon?
Yes.
Miss Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Miss Thomas?
Yes.
Miss Peterson?
Yes.
And Miss Pitts?
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now, board members, I'm at the top of page 6. I am asking for a motion to approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary report that begins at the top of page 6 of our agenda and continues through to the bottom of page 10. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Miss Martin?
Yes.
Miss McClendon?
Yes.
Miss Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Miss Thomas?
Yes.
Miss Peterson?
Yes.
And Miss Pitts?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now, board members, I'm asking for a motion to approve the personnel report that begins and ends on page 11. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second, Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Miss Martin?
Yes.
Miss McClendon?
Yes.
Miss Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Miss Thomas?
Yes.
Miss Peterson?
Yes.
And Miss Pitts?
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Board members, at this time, we're going to move to our addendum. We do have an addendum this evening. We to deliver it. Is there anyone who would need additional time to read through it, or can I call for a motion? Okay, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the superintendent's report as it appears on our addendum. And it is a resolution with regards to the school-based youth services program. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas to approve this resolution. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. McClendon,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Thank you. Moving now, board members, still on the addendum, I'm asking for a motion to approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report that begins on page 2 of the addendum and ends on page 3. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. McClendon,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you. Moving now, board members, I'm still on the addendum, page 4. I'm asking a motion to approve the personnel report that begins and ends on page 4. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. McClendon,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you. Board members, I'm going to ask administration, because I did not read the resolution. I'm going to ask administration if they would post this on our website, the resolution that we approved urging continued state funding of the school-based youth services program, so that the public can see the resolution that we're sending to the Department of Education.
Mrs. Pitts,
Yes, Mr. Shaw.
can I add something to this?
To this resolution?
No, well, just a comment.
Oh, certainly.
Just so the community knows, that there is a petition that they can sign on to on change.org for this. That's out there. There's tens of thousands of signatures already on it. That's petitioning the governor on community, different communities, because this is such an important issue that this affects things like Eagles Landing, in the high school and middle school. So programs like that will possibly be taken away if school-based youth services aren't funded through the state budget. So that's why this type of program is so important. You're talking, I think it's like $15 million or more is going to be cut from the state budget. So if we don't have this funding, we will lose programs like Eagles Landing that are really critical to our students' social and mental health. So if you can go on change.org and find that petition and sign up and let the governor know how we feel, because by the end of September 30th, when that fiscal year budget for October 1st starts, and this isn't in there, school districts around the state will feel it. So please help us out and let the governor know how you feel. Call your state senator, call your state House representative. Please let them know.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any further comments? Moving now, board members, from the addendum, we're at our Open Public Records Act requests.
Yes, Madam President, between the period of September 3rd, 2020 and September 17th, 2020, we responded to one OPA request that was submitted by Mr. Ellery Carl. He was looking for a copy of books and book licenses available for students to use online by grade level. We did supply the list of books. We did not supply the licenses, but we're still digging deep for that.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Boyle. That's good to know. Board members, at this time, would there be any old business that you would care to discuss at this time? Thank you. Moving now to new business. Board members, would there be any new business that you would care to discuss at this time?
Yes, Madam President.
Who's that, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Peterson.
I know this is the last meeting that we agreed to have at 6 o'clock for the month of September.
Yes.
I'm asking for consideration to continue to the month of October and November with the 6 o'clock meetings.
Start date is 6 o'clock, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson, would you want to put that in the form of a motion?
I move that our board meetings for the month of October and November 2020 start at 6 p.m.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and second that our board meetings through October, November will have a start date of 6 p.m. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
1 second, Madam President. Will this include via WebEx?
Oh, yes, all of our meetings are WebEx. Yeah, we will not be having in-person meetings until it is designated by public health officials that it's safe for us to go into our buildings.
Okay, because it looked as if it has only been approved, I think, up until October. We didn't say anything for our November or December meetings.
Well, it is, I think Ms. Peterson's motion was for October and November.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that it was going to be done by WebEx as well. Thank you.
Yes, good point. It is being done by WebEx. Any further questions? Okay, roll call please on that motion.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. McClendon?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Bull. We're still on new business. Any further new business at this time?
Yes, Madam President, this is Ms. Martin.
Yes, Ms. Martin.
I had the opportunity to attend a webinar called Safe Screen COVID-19 Health Reporting System. The idea was to screen students, employees, and guests before they enter any building to manage risk and help stop the devastating impact of COVID-19. SafeScreen is a HIPAA-compliant web-based application that uses CDC NIH guidelines to instantly screen out and alert you of individuals who may have been exposed to or displaying symptoms of COVID-19 before entering school. Each day, users receive a system-generated email or text requesting that they take the health screener. If they are clear, they receive a color-coded entry pass to display as they enter. If they receive a do not enter pass, then the system administrator is notified and reaches out. The screening process takes less than a minute to complete each day, and it lasts only for 24 hours. It expires at 11:59 p.m., so it must be done every day. All data is instantly and securely stored in the cloud using Amazon's AWS cloud infrastructure. Setup and launch of the system takes about 1 to 4 days, depending on the size of your organization. SafeScreen pricing starts at $1,200 annually for an average school size. I just wanted to really make the public aware that we are constantly searching and looking for ways to make sure that we all remain safe as we travel through the remote stage and as we move forward to the hybrid. At this particular time, this particular idea is a very good one, but it is very expensive and it is very time consuming. because there's a lot of work that has to be done on the back end before you can put the program in place. But I just
Thank you.
wanted to make everybody aware.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. I'm going to ask the Operations Committee to take a look at that and do a little bit more research on that and bring it back to the board so that we can explore it further.
Okay.
Because it may have merit. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Thank you. Any further new business? If there's no further new business, I do have one item. As we all know, Mr. Kevin O'Neill, who was a former school board member, passed away, I believe September 4th, and Ms. Peterson and I attended his service. And at his service, we did read a proclamation from the Winslow Township Board of Education, and we also indicated that it would be read into our minutes. So I'm going to, if you will allow me, to take a few minutes and read Mr. Kevin O'Neill's proclamation from the Winslow Township Board of Education. And it reads thus: Winslow Township Board of Education School Board, Kevin Hugh O'Neill proclamation. We, the members of the Winslow Township School Board, Camden County, New Jersey, hearts are with the family, friends, community, and employees of our dear 2006-2009 board member, Mr. Kevin Hugh O'Neill, in Edgewood Regional Senior High School, class of 1988 alumnus. And whereas our esteemed Mr. O'Neill exhibited a strong, unwavering commitment in working with others on the board towards the common goal of providing the best possible education for the children in the community of Winslow Township, Camden County, New Jersey. And whereas Mr. O'Neill kept children first, believed in the public schools mission, strived to reach consensus on difficult issues, maintained a high standard of conduct, sought out the necessary information to make and informed decisions, and above all, embraced the philosophy that decision-making authority is vested in the Board of Education, not in the individual members. And whereas Mr. O'Neill championed the causes of freedom and dignity as a right for all persons, high academic achievement, and extracurricular engagement as a mandate for productive citizenship, and who expressed daily his unwavering love for family, friends, community members, high school alma mater, and his employees at American Lawn Irrigation Incorporated. And whereas the fruits of Mr. O'Neill's passionate labor as a board member was evident by his ability to work harmoniously with his fellow board members, the administrative team, and staff in the district's extracurricular accomplishment within the areas of drama production, sports, and Army Junior ROTC, whether it be in The Sound of Music, The Miracle on 34th Street, The Little Shop of Horrors, A Christmas Carol, Guys and Dolls, Arsenic and Old Lace, Grease, and A Christmas Story. Whereas honest, optimistic, dedication, and unmatched customer service are the characteristics that Mr. O'Neill brought to each board meeting in order to maintain a children-centered team approach to each board undertaking. And whereas Mr. O'Neill leaves as a legacy that spans generations in his children, youth, sports, and his employees, he mentored, challenged, and inspired as warriors for academic excellence and civic engagement, and as a financial contributor to the improvement of the district's sports fields. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Winslow Township School Board hereby expresses their profound feelings of loss and also their deep appreciation for all that Mr. Kevin H. O'Neill meant to our district and community. And moreover, be it resolved that the Winslow Township School Board acknowledges the exemplary work and steadfast commitment of Mr. O'Neill, a public education advocator and district's donor, whose life well lived is a legacy of service and commitment to others, leaving the world better than he found it, and lasting memory of our grateful hearts we will treasure. And be it finally resolved that the Winslow Township School Board, Camden County, New Jersey, extends sincere condolences to his wife, Joanne, his stepson, Sean Van Kirk, his daughters, Carrie Ann and Kellyanne O'Neill, his siblings and family, with the full understanding and knowing that Mr. Kevin Hugh O'Neill truly lived a life of benevolence. Therefore, a copy of this proclamation shall be incorporated into the minutes of this board, and that a copy therefore be given to the family. Humbly submitted on the 13th day of September 2020 by the Winslow Township School Board, Camden County, New Jersey. Respectfully submitted, Cheryl Pitts, President, Dr. H. Major Poteet, Superintendent. And so therefore, board members, I'm asking that we do a voice vote to move that this be entered into our minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Moving now on our agenda, board members, we're at the point where we, Winslow Township, we're talking about the annual class trip to Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And Dr. Poteet, would you want to brief us on that with Mr. Morello?
Yes, Madam President. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board and community. Every year, our seniors have a class trip, and normally those young people go to Disney World in Orlando, Florida. They are at the point where they have to make a decision this year so that they can get the finances there with the organization so that they can do this in a timely manner. One of the issues we wanted to bring to the board is the fact that Florida is still one of those states that is considered a hot spot, and therefore the coronavirus is still somewhat substantial in that particular area. And whether or not the board wanted to approve the young people going on that trip under those circumstances. The other, concern at this point, but again, whether or not you would have enough staff members to accommodate these young people. But then again, that's something that remains to be seen. I asked Mr. Morello, the building principal, to be available tonight to answer any particulars that you may have. But we wanted to bring it to the board's attention first because I thought it was important enough for you to know that there are some different stipulations on this particular trip that is different than it was in previous years because of COVID-19. And Mr. Morello will be able to fill you in on those details if you would like to have them. But rather than just arbitrarily deny the trip because of those reasons, I felt it was important that we bring it to the full board for discussion and possibly a decision, because a decision needs to be made, I think, by October 1st with that first down payment, so these young people can at least be in a position where they can continue to move forward with the planning process. So if you have any questions at this time, and I'll ask Mr. Morello to chime in with any details that you may want to have at this point.
Well, Madam President, may I?
Yes, Ms. McClellan.
I would like to hear Mr. Morello at least provide some of the details that you said that was different from previous due to the COVID. So if you could share that with us so that we kind of get a better understanding of what those differences are and what does it impact.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Ms. McClellan, thank you. They have just recently updated the contract for the trip to Disney. And with that, the biggest thing that they're talking about in the contract is the recommendation for insurance for all students. So there were some things that have reverted back to what it once was, meaning the kids will have an opportunity to visit all of the parks. But the travel agency is making a heavy recommendation towards insurance for all students. So that is the biggest thing that is going on right now.
And so, Mr. Morelli, the insurance says what? Is this an insurance with regards to cancellation?
Yes, it is insurance for cancellation, and it would allow the students within 72 hours of the trip to cancel and receive a 75% refund. So otherwise, the trip could not be refunded unless, say, for instance, the airlines were closed once again, or if the parks were closed once again. In any other situation, they would need to have this insurance to get 75% of their refund.
What is the insurance per student?
So there are different breakdowns depending on how they situate the rooms. So there's a single occupancy, a double, a triple, and a quad. So if you take a single or a double, it's going to be $81 per person, and a triple or a quad would be $102. The insurance company sent us an email, the travel agency emailed us separate from the contract and said if all students would purchase the insurance, they could make it $59 for all students. Now, this is the information that they've given us so far. So there's three different options: 81 for a certain occupancy, 102 for a certain occupancy, and then they're stating in an email they could do $59 for each student if all students elect the insurance.
Now, Mrs. Pitts, there's just one other issue that I like to raise because I'm always going to err on the side of safety.
Yes,
for the children. And so I think about these things a little more readily than some others would. My question would have been, if a student gets sick or contract COVID-19 while they're there, who would be responsible? If the young person, had to go to the hospital, will they be retained? Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to pay for it? How would they get back? Those kinds of things, particularly, going into Florida. So I was just wondering about, if young people go down there, I know they're going to be taking all the precautions that are necessary. Worst case scenario, if one of the young people gets sick, how would that be handled? And that's a question I just wanted to make sure we know, because I wouldn't want a young person to be left down there because, of course, the trip, once it's over, they would have to come back. They won't stay. So how would something like that work in the event a child got sick while they were there? And, who would be responsible for that situation? Now, unfortunately, of course, what comes to mind would be the parents would have to go down because no one on the trip would be a relative. So you won't be able to see that person while they're there to do anything at this point. So I'm just thinking about, worst case scenarios and what would possibly be the responsibility of the district in the event something like that would occur.
Mrs. Pitts, I can answer some of those questions if I might chime in.
Yes, Mr. Long.
So one of the things that I would like to see is the contract with the travel agency, number one. Actually, in the very beginning of March, middle of March, Dr. Carcamo and I had this conversation from last year, and nothing was open, and they weren't permitted. You weren't permitted to go into Florida from the Northeast at the time because that was considered the hot spot. And basically, we just kept saying, "Oh, we're going. We're not canceling," because if you cancel, everybody will lose their money. And finally, they realized how ridiculous that was, and we worked it out last year. So one of the things is it's important that I see the documents beforehand. I know that everybody wants to provide this class, especially with what they'll have to endure throughout the year, an opportunity to go. But we also have to be, as Doc says, Dr. Petit says, cautious and safe with the children as well. So I think there needs to be an agreement between the district and the parents. And I would, number one, insist that each child, even though and that gets you the reduced rate, must have trip cancellation insurance. That you can't book it without in this day and age without actually having that. I've been in situations representing a district a number of years ago where someone made a comment getting on a plane about a joke, which was the type of joke you shouldn't make at an airport. And that individual child was retained, and a teacher had to stay with that child while it was there. We're not permitted to abandon that child, particularly if they're not 18, in Florida. So somebody's going to have to be, and this speaking to Mr. Morell as well, in terms of the aides and the chaperones, who is ever going to stand up and do that. The understanding is that we can't leave a child down there alone. So, but we ought to require that should that circumstance arise, that the parent has 72 hours by which to use any and all means or methods to get to that state and to their child, so that teacher can or chaperone can be relieved of their responsibilities. So these are some things that I'd really like to kick around with Dr. Poteet and Dr. Carcamo, since I've worked with her on this before. I think number one, I need to see the policy with the agreement with the travel agency. 2, I need to see the trip cancellation policy. And 3, I think we need to create a permission slip document that sets out, because these are unique times, as we all know, that sets out the parental responsibilities to address some of the concerns that Doc has raised. I mean, we've had prom issues, we had senior trip issues, something along the lines always comes up. And it would be very helpful for me to see these documents before they're signed, as opposed to after they're signed, so I can put the language in there that protects the district, the children, the teachers, Mr. Morella individually. Only kidding, Mr. Morella. But you can, I think everybody can appreciate what I'm saying. We really need to have a discussion and figure this out before we just go walking into it, given the the state of affairs nationwide.
Well, thank you, Mr. Long, and certainly as our legal counsel, it would behoove us to listen to your advice. Board members, I need to hear from you. Here's my concern. I believe Dr. Poteet said there's an October 1st deadline by which parents have to respond. Now, board members, we don't meet again as a board until October 14th. So I need to hear from you suggestions on exactly how you feel about this and what would your recommendations be?
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Peterson.
The October 1st deadline, is that in stone? It cannot be more flexible?
We cannot address that at this time, Mrs. Peterson. We are only going by the deadlines or the timelines that they gave us. And I think that that October 1st is, you have to make your first down payment by then in order to get the package that is offered. Ms. Morella, if you have any other additional information in reference to that timeline, but I think based on the information, that first payment have to be made in order to get the package that is, set before us, Ms. Peterson.
Dr. Poteet, if I may?
Yes, sir.
As I said earlier, they've updated the contract, and the contract now reflects that the first installment is due on October 30th. And they also stated that if we request it by October 20th, that they would extend the date for us. But then that would make the cost higher for the students for their second payment. So the first installment would be $500. The second installment would be $500. So we could request on October 20th an extension, if that's what we wish to do. And then that second payment would be $1,000, which would be due in December.
I see.
Right, and then their final payment is set to be due on February 12th. And that could,
Okay. Mr. Morella, what is the total cost of the trip?
the average cost of the trip for students will be $1,700. But
Okay.
again, a student can elect to stay in a different type of room. There's a single occupancy, a double occupancy, a triple, and a quad. And
Yes.
of course, the single would be the most expensive and it would go
Right.
down to the quad.
Right.
But the average cost is $1,700 if normally our students stay in quads.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Morella. Board
Madam
members?
President,
Yes, Ms. Peterson.
the reason why I asked that question, so what I'm hearing is that it's a little bit more flexible. We may have into October the 14th. And I wonder if that's sufficient time for our solicitor to review those documents and provide us with his feedback.
Mr. Long?
Certainly. Yep. And then one thing I wanted to ask Mr. Morella, if I may. Mr. Morella, what level of interest have you gauged from the senior class?
We have not had any inquiries in regards to the senior trip as of yet.
Okay.
And how many members are in this senior class, Mr. Morella, if I don't mind me asking?
Approximately 300.
So if you had 32 people expressed interest, 10% of the class, is it something that you would think them would not be worth it as opposed to 200? And do you know, normally in a year without the things going on that are going on now, what would you expect to see?
We generally average around 100 students. Last year we had 95. The previous year we had 120. The year before that we had 100. So we average right around just a little bit over 100 students per trip.
And at what number, if you have one, would you suggest to the board, it may not be worth the responsibility, the liability, because of a lack of interest? What number would, in your mind, if you have one, would that be?
I wouldn't want to suggest a number right now, but I'm not certain that the travel agency would take a much lower number. So as you had stated earlier, around 30 students, I don't know if they would run the trip for us.
That's something we could get from the travel agency, and maybe they're going to have to set what the minimum number is to maintain that price range.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems that since we know the date is October 30th, and certainly our next meeting is October 14th, and we've heard our legal counsel say that would be sufficient time enough to honor his request of course, reviewing the contract. Board members, what would be your recommendation at this time with regards to this particular issue?
Madam President, I have a question. I'm sorry, before you ask a recommendation. Mr. Morella, just correct me if I'm wrong. You said if we wanted an extension, right now, since the contract has been updated, we have to October 30th. However, if we needed to do an extension, we could let them know by October the 20th and we'll get extended time beyond the 30th, or no?
Yes, that is correct. So if we were not to have a final determination, we could request in an email on October 20th, by October 20th, an extension. And they didn't state what the extension would be. And I don't want to assume, but it probably would fall around that December 2nd payment.
Okay. I definitely think, Madam President, that we need to have time for Mr. Long to review the documents. Another thing I would like to suggest, Mr. Morella, since you really don't want to give a count on how many students you think, is there a way that we can put out something to parents now, just as also additional information as to how many parents would be willing to send their seniors on a trip to Florida? Because if the response is many parents saying no, majority of, if we have 50, 60, 70%, 80% parents saying no, then it's a moot point to even put any money down if majority parents are already from the door saying no. At this point in time, if that's their response, then it kind of makes the decision for us a little bit easier. So is that possible? Is there a way we can put out a poll or something on the site where parents can at least say, if at this point in time, knowing that Florida is a hot state, would you be willing to send your child there for a senior trip come, that time frame? That may at least allow us to get some factual figures to whether or not parents are willing to send their child. And also we can look at the information that Mr. Long comes back with us.
Well, I definitely think that that's something we can brainstorm and try to determine a way that we could poll the parents.
Okay. All right. So is that the board's recommendation that we ask administration to poll the parents? Can I hear from the board members?
Yeah.
Who was that, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for me, Madam President.
Who's okay?
Ms. Martin.
Ms. Martin?
I just have a quick question for Mr. Morella. In addition to the fact that we might poll the seniors to find out how many are interested, we also need to take into consideration the number of chaperones, adults that are going to be going on this trip as well. Because if we don't have enough of them interested, we run into another issue. So I think that's something else that we need to probably consider in addition to Mr. Long taking a look at the current.
Good point, Ms. Martin.
Yes, I agree.
I agree, Ms. Martin. So, Dr. Poteet, with regards to doing a polling within the time frame that we have, so that certainly the board would know, and also Mr. Long would know by our next October 14th meeting. Is that doable, Dr. Poteet?
Yes, I think it is. And again, I don't want to belabor the health issue, but keep in mind, as long as Florida remains a hot spot or a hot state, upon arrival, those young people will still have to go into a 14-day quarantine.
Yeah, it can't work.
That's mandatory. So anyone coming out of a state that is identified as one of those areas of concern, those young people coming back and the teachers and administrators, whoever go on that trip, must spend 14-day quarantine. So I just want to make sure that I put everything out there so that the parents and the students, particularly the parents, because I'm more than certain, they would probably be making that final decision, so that they have all this information in front of them. So by the time we get to the 14th, the board will have that information in front of them also.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Poteet. Any further comments from the board? Any clarification needed from the board? Okay, thank you.
Just one more thing. I would recommend, since we are looking at the 14th, that we go ahead and put in that extension, if that's the case, because we only have till, I guess, the 20th, Mr. Morella, to put in the extension? Or do we wait till the 14th when we come back with the information with the poll and with Mr. Long to decide whether or not how we're going to move?
Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily will work, because then if we elect to have an extension, that means we're electing to agree with the contract.
Oh.
But we'll have everything back in time by the 14th.
Right.
Because we have to the 30th now of October to make a decision.
Right. So we could not ask for the extension now, but after the meeting on the 14th, should the board wish to do that, at that time we could, correct?
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments or further discussion, board members? We're clear on what exactly we're asking the administration and also allowing Mr. Long to do. Okay? Thank you, board members. Any further informational items, Dr. Poteet?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and community, I have a few information items. I want you to know that this week I did a review of all educational programs throughout the district, And I made a change at the high school because I realized the instructional day was not long enough. The instructional periods, the instructional day was not long enough. So I made that change at the high school. It's been brought to my attention that some staff and some students are not in agreement of that change, and there's a possibility of a petition that may be coming forward to you tonight in reference to the change that I made. But I just want to go on the record before we get those individuals coming to the board so that they understand something. We've made some changes. Just like tonight, we discussed an opportunity for a senior class trip. We've made changes to clubs and athletics, those kinds of things. And I can appreciate the parents and the students' voice in those kinds of issues. And we've been receptive. However, tonight, I want the young people to know and the community to know that the instructional school day is non-negotiable. That isn't something that we sit down and discuss and come up with an idea. That is solely the responsibility of the superintendent. I must make sure that the educational program in this school district is one that meets all the needs of our students. The Department of Education require me to make sure that there are a certain number of instructional hours every day in order for the district to get credit for that day. On the other hand, I want the Department of Education, and more importantly, the parents of this community to know that we are not going to water down our educational programs to accommodate anyone's personal agenda. I said in the very beginning, even through our committees, the restart committees, that we're going to have an educational program in this district that mirrors the same program we offered during our normal regular day, even if we were not in COVID. So at this point, and I understand people's concerns, but I made the decision as superintendent to increase the instructional period and instructional day at the high school, and it's still shorter than a normal day. But that's a decision that I made. And unfortunately, I just want the young people to know that this is a non-negotiable issue, and it is solely responsible of the superintendent to make sure that the educational day is appropriate. But I want to assure the parents that I made that decision in the best interest of these young people. And I will not put myself or these young people in a position where our educational program is not one that is substantial enough to meet the educational needs, so that in a review at the end of the school year, the state or colleges and universities see that our educational program did not meet a certain criteria, then it's too late to change. So I made a professional and educational decision to extend the school day at the high school. And I want the members of the board to know, in the event those questions come before you, that I've made that educational decision because it is my responsibility to not only do the educational day, but the educational calendar year, which is my responsibility. Which takes me to the next information item, because this is a concern that's been brought to me, and I wanted to address it early on. Our full remote learning is the educational program of the district, and all the policies and procedures will be enforced as we normally would do during a normal school year. All students must check in and be present for all of their classes at the designated time. Students who are not present will not be marked, students who are not present, will be marked absent, or if they're late, they will be marked late. Assignments not completed or turned in will not receive any credit. Teachers and administrators have been asked by me to keep attendance, and our 5-day and 10-day attendance letters will be sent out to those who are in violation of our attendance policies, just like we would normally do during a normal, regular school year. I want to address this issue early in the school year because it appears to me that many students are not taking their education seriously. And I ask that you do not allow your child as a parent to fall behind. If there is a need, Please contact your teacher or the building principal for any assistance. We're in the 3rd week of school, and already we have begun to send out 5-day letters and 10-day letters. We've made phone calls to parents, and those letters are even being hand delivered by our attendance officer. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to the educational day and educational year, we need to understand that even though we are full remote, we are not on vacation. This is not a time for us to get lax and start looking at our educational programs as though we can pick and choose when our children can and cannot log in, or when they're going to come to school or be present, or when they're going to do their work. Young people have jobs they're going to, missing the entire academic day and wanting us to make accommodations for evening hours. No, we're not going to do that. We are running an educational program. This is a school district, and the students are to be available during the regular school day and the regular school hours. So I'm asking the building principals to stay on top of this. I'm asking them to make sure that they are in touch with those parents, that they continue to let the parents and the students know that we are serious about the educational program here, and we're going to hold everyone accountable. The principals and the central office staff have been designated by me to observe and monitor classes virtually and to address any concerns that they observe during this time, just like they would normally do during a regular school year, to go into those classrooms, to observe those teachers and observe those young people, to make sure we stay on task. So not only the teachers, even the assistant superintendent, all my central office staff, administrators, as well as the building principals, they are asked to virtually go in and observe those classrooms and monitor the educational programs, because I made a promise to this community during our committees that we are going to provide a quality education to these young people, and that is non-negotiable. So everyone at this point is going to be held accountable for their responsibility. Presently, all the administrators are in district 5 days a week. If any parent have a question or concern, I'm asking you to please call or email your principal, and they will respond within 24 hours. Again, we are back to our standard operational procedures as we would normally do if we were in school face-to-face. Starting October the 5th, of course, administrators will be in district Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 to 3 in their buildings to address any concerns, because you can recall last year during remote instruction, parents stated to us that they couldn't get in touch with anyone, no one was available. And of course, you know, our buildings was closed to everyone. But this year, starting October the 5th, building administrators, central office administrators will be in their offices Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 9 to 3, and we will be available to make those, address any concerns. Of course, we are always going to be checking our emails to make sure we address everything in a timely manner. So I'm hoping that also assists our parents. Parents, if you want to come to the schools, we ask that you call first and make an appointment. We're asking that you do not drop in, because we are limited to the number of parents that we can have in our buildings at one time because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. However, this will also eliminate the frustration that comes with showing up, the principal's not available, and then of course people get upset. So we're also asking, if you want to make an appointment, that you call the building, set it up. We'll be more than happy to accommodate you. I know Mrs. Mitchell mentioned the lunch program, but I want to re-emphasize that because there's something that's really important for our parents. Right now, as you know, everyone is free. And at some point, possibly around the end of December, this program is going to come to an end. However, for those families who were free or reduced last year, or anyone, if your financial status have changed since last year, you should complete the free and reduced lunch application that was sent to all families in August. I encourage you to complete the application and return it to your school by October the 16th. If we do not receive a new application, the family will automatically revert back to paid status. So please avoid this situation from happening and return that lunch application as soon as possible, but no later than October the 16th. I'm going to do a robocall to all parents because I know the overwhelming majority of the parents do not log into this meeting. I will do a robocall tomorrow evening informing parents of this change and the need to fill in these applications. If you do not have the application since August, you may have thrown it away. We will post that information online where you can download a copy of that application, but you cannot fill it out online because an original signature is required. So we would ask again that if you need an application, go online, download it, and fill it out as soon as possible and send that to, return it to your school principal. It's important. It's important that this is done because we do not want anyone who was normally on free and reduced status to all of a sudden, let's say January, you're cut off from free and reduced lunch, and it's only because we didn't turn in that paperwork on time. So we're asking by October the 16th, if you would please fill out that free and reduced lunch application, we would appreciate it, and your services will continue. So let's think ahead. And I know, again, everyone is free, so we may have set it aside, but this isn't going to last long. The funding, according to the Department of Agriculture, will run out. So I want to give everyone a heads up so that we can get this done as quickly as possible. Madam President, that concludes my information items for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Moving now, board members.
Madam President, I have a question for Dr.
Yes, Ms.
Poteet,
Yes.
and maybe Mr. Morella can assist as well. So, Dr. Poteet, you were talking about the extension of the school day.
Yes.
I totally agree with you as far as our job is to educate our kids and not to shortchange them on education. The question I have is, due to the change of the school day being extended longer than before, when it comes down to your sports activities, because I know the bus pickup now starts at 1:30, some teachers, my understanding, have requested that their paperwork or their assignments be turned in by 2 o'clock, which poses a problem. So,
Yes.
One, I want to ask, do we have, as far as for the high school, is there a consistency as far as when assignments are turned in on that day, or is it at the discretion of the teacher?
No, here's what's going to happen, Mrs. McClendon. Everything
Okay.
shifts. Everything shifts. The teachers are clearly aware it needs to be done. The athletic program, everybody shifts. We'll make the accommodations. Again, in the school day, athletics, extracurricular activities, as we talked about, I think, August 26th meeting, everything should be after school, and nothing should interfere with the academic program at all. So we will make all of the adjustments. Everything will shift in the athletic program. Now, if the athletic program had started before our academic day, then that should not have happened anyway. So at this point, with the shift, and I agree, Mrs. McClendon, with that shift, everything will shift and it will not hinder the young people at all. And we will be as close as we would normally be on a regular school day, but there's still an hour or so at the end of the academic day for teachers to work with students who may need additional help. So we still made sure we allocated that time at the end of the day for academics, but all extracurricular and athletic programs, will begin after the academic day with no interruptions. And the athletic director has been told this is something that needs to be done because Mrs. McClendon, members of the board, we all agree. Nothing interferes with the academic programs at our schools because that is first and foremost. And all the teachers, coaches, advisors will make those changes accordingly. And if they do not, then they will hear directly from Mr. Morella through my office to make those changes, because the children will not be penalized for any changes we make.
Okay, so is it safe to say, Dr. Potee, that the pickup nap time will be pushed back for athletes instead of, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Potee, may I respond to that, please?
Yes, Dr. Carcamo.
So practice doesn't start until 2:30. By the time the student day ends, they have more than enough time to catch the bus and get to practice. So the change in the schedule should not affect anything else. With regard to having to complete their work by 2 o'clock, the teachers now have additional time to work with the students. So there is no need, for those students to feel like they won't have enough time to get those things done. But practice doesn't start until 2:30, so they have enough time to catch the bus and to get their work done.
So, Dr. Carcamo, maybe I didn't explain it correctly. So, for instance, if the day, and Mr. Morella, if you can give me the time for the last period class, it ends around 12 something now? Or?
I think it's about 12:47.
Okay, so 12:47, and I'm going to speak for me because my child is an athlete for Winslow. So the bus comes and picks her up at 1:30. So if she's finishing her day at 12:47, and one of her teachers or the teacher is saying your assignments is due by 2 o'clock, it just isn't feasible for her to be at the bus to be picked up at 1:30. That's what time the bus picks her up. So that was the reason why I was asking the extension along with the day. Now, would that extend transportation for athletes to be pushed back a little later than what it is currently?
Mrs. McClendon, point well taken.
Okay, thank you.
A point well taken. I will ask the athletic director to take a look at that, and we will make the shifts accordingly. As I stated, and I agree, we are not going to put the students in a situation or position where they are being penalized because we've made an academic change. So therefore, I will make sure Mr. Morella hears me through Dr. Carcamo. We'll speak to Mr. Morella, transportation, and if there's any changes that need to be made, it is a quick fix. Trust me.
Okay, that's fine. Because you know, our students want to make those deadlines. They don't want their work to be late. They want to be on time.
We're on the same page because that's why I made the changes. Nothing is going to interfere with the academic program of these young people.
Absolutely. Okay.
First, and again, and I know I've been redundant, I want to assure the parents of this community that we are not going to have a substandard educational program for these young people because we're in remote. And I know based on the things I'm looking at and the things I'm asking about attendance, people have a tendency to get a little lackadaisical. They're not as in tune to what is expected, not taking things seriously. So this directive is to my staff and to the students. We are serious about education. And I promise the parents we're going to make sure that whatever model we're in, we're going to make sure it is substantial to meet the academic needs of these young people. So yes, Mrs. McClendon, members of the board, any academic changes, whatever we need to make sure these young people get what they need, we will do it. And we'll do it immediately. It is still early. Like I said, we're just in the third week. And I felt it was time to do it so that we don't have this problem as we move closer to January. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. That concludes my information items for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Potee. Board members, are we clear? No, any further questions? Okay, moving on to public comment. The Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making important decisions that affect the children of our community. We also believe in the rights of citizens to observe our board meetings, to ensure that all our citizens have the opportunity to attend school board meetings and offer comment, and to ensure that the board can conduct the important business of the district, we ask that speakers follow these guidelines for making public comments. The board president or board secretary will recognize those individuals who wish to make comment. Please respect the following procedures. Number one, all members of the public attending school board meetings must treat each other and the board with respect. Number two, please state your full name and address. Number three, please limit your comments to 4 minutes. Number four, kindly submit your questions to the Board of Education with your name, address, and telephone number where you can be contacted. Your questions will be answered within a reasonable amount of time. And number five, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make personal attacks on any district employee, board member, other testifier, or member of the public. At this time, board members, I'm asking for a motion to open our meeting to public comment.
Motion, Shaw.
Second, Thomas.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Boyle?
Yes, Madam President, we have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
My name is Cynthia Moore. I'm at 60 Stone Hollow Drive, Sicklerville, New Jersey. I wanted to ask about the time for the meetings to begin. When you changed the meeting time to 6 o'clock, it was understandable because everybody was basically at home. But now a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of parents, have returned to work, and 6 o'clock is really not a good time for a lot of people. So I was just wondering if you would reconsider making it not 7 o'clock as your meetings used to be, but maybe 6:30 even, because I think it would give a lot of parents time to get home, feed their children, and then get on for the meeting. So that's my request.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. That's a consideration. The board will take that under consideration.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, caller. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name and address, and then make your public comment.
My name is Rosemary DeChico. My address is 412 East Central Avenue in Winslow Township.
Ms. DeChico, if you'd like to make your comment.
Yes, I would. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Dr. Poteet was saying about the length of stay for the students. Has any consideration been given to have all schools, or at least the upper elementary, middle school, and high school follow the same school day? And I'm going to use just my house as an example, as I have 3 kids at all 3 different age levels. And there are kids coming and going all day, every day. Lunch at my house lasts 2 hours, as the lunch periods are scattered completely. And it's, not everyone has their own little cubby where they can work, and it's very distracting at my house. As the middle schooler is starting to stay much earlier, and my upper elementary kid is, on her whatever, making a lot of noise, and then my little one is doing his thing. So has any consideration been given for parents or other households who may be in a similar situation to make it a little easier for these kids to concentrate at home by at least having all kids be in the same school period while we're doing remote?
Madam President, Dr. Poteet, I have not given that any thought because, as I mentioned earlier, we are trying to run our educational programs as similar to the timeline as we possibly could if we were going face to face. The other consideration is, as Mrs. McClendon mentioned, that the high school, there are other very important activities that go on at a certain time, and that is in conjunction, of course, with other interscholastic programs, other competitive programs at the high school level, and all the high schools are pretty much on that same timeline. So we didn't touch that schedule. And the same thing would apply to the middle school because there are other programs that we offer. And if we push them back, then it causes confusion on the other end. At this point, it is not a consideration that I have thought about. And it would really be difficult for us. And let's say, just for an example, if we moved everybody to the high school schedule, then that means the little people would have to be getting up for a class that may start at 7:15 or 7:30 or somewhere around there. And you must ask yourselves, is that accommodating for those little people to get up that early to match that schedule? Because a middle schedule will disrupt everything. So to the caller, no, I have not considered it. And it would have to be something that we would have to consider what would be the ramifications or the domino effect if we did so. So my response at this point is no, we have not given that any consideration at all.
Can I interject back in? Again, speaking for other families, our little ones are up much earlier than our old ones. And following, an earlier schedule would not be bad for anyone. I think it's more destructive in a household to have multiple children following multiple different schedules. So I would ask you to consider it and think what would be best for the children. My son is done school at 2:20, my middle schooler, and that bus to pick him up for sports is here at 2:30. So if he were following the high school schedule, it would actually make it much easier for him. So middle schoolers are also doing activities, so to be done earlier would not be a bad thing. And so are the upper elementary school kids as well. So it might, to think about looking inside a household and to have, in just my house, 3 different kids running around, and I know other families are in the same position. It just might be something to consider, a way to make remote learning run a little smoother for kids and parents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
Hi, my name is Kashima Waller. I'm calling from 9 Peaceful Court.
Yes, Ms. Waller.
I thank you. Thank you for this time. I'm calling I actually have 3 questions, so I'm going to make it very quick. One, I'm extremely concerned about our youngest students and the requirement for them to have face-to-face screen time with teachers, specials, therapists, plus continuing to do work online between 3 different websites. The students and parents, I know we are struggling, especially having a child who is differently able within the disabled kindergarten program. I'm curious to know whether or not there will be another survey that's going to go out to teachers and parents to assess the success of the virtual learning method that's happening right now, as well as some opportunities. That's one question. The other question is whether or not the reentry plan will prioritize the return of students who have IEPs and 503 schools, because they seem to be suffering the greatest at this moment. And then the final question is whether or not the board is looking to reevaluate the current virtual learning environment of 6 hours of screen time for the lower elementary students, namely those of special education classes.
Yes, caller. First of all, the reentry plan was put into place to meet multiple or to address multiple concerns. Right now, we are full remote as we address the health issues in the buildings. We will be, as a part of that virtual town hall meeting, addressing some concerns at that point. And we also will have a better opportunity to know whether or not we are going to go back in full face-to-face or whether or not we are going to be in a hybrid and, of course, by law, still be able to offer full remote learning. So at this point, it's not a matter of a survey. It's just a matter of where we are as a school district and what we're going to be able to offer. So there will be an opportunity for us to relook at what we're doing and how we're going to provide the educational program, because we have to be prepared one way or the other to return in January in one mode or the other. As far as the special education students are concerned, we understand that there are special needs that are required for them. If there is an opportunity for us to do some face-to-face with them, we will. But again, the primary reason why that has not occurred is because everyone is out until we get the recertification and the clearance that our buildings are safe and healthy enough for our children and staff to return. Then, of course, we will consider that also. Looking at remote learning, one of the things that came out of last year was that the parents said that the little people didn't have enough screen time. Of course, I'm hearing now that they have too much screen time. So maybe there is a happy medium somewhere in that. But we always reassess what we're doing. And I am able to hopefully be able to respond to a lot of those questions come December, because by then all the assessments would have been done and we will have a better idea of what it is we can and cannot do.
I appreciate that response to all of the questions. I think the great concern also, and there could be some implicit bias that there are some parents that may be lax or they're not as attentive. But I know for certain that having children working virtually 100%, as well as parents who are working virtually 100%, has placed a great strain on many households. And I know, as for me, I literally have to sit next to my son the entire time he is online from 9 to 3:30, which makes it very difficult for him to work independently because he can't, but also for me to do my obligation, which is my job. So I know I'm not the only parent who's in that place. I do understand last year the packets were overwhelming because they weren't as organized as they could be. Understanding we needed to rush to get the kids out of the building, home safe, so we could all quarantine, but figuring out what is the best hybrid, especially for those who are home and they have different needs and different learning needs, to make sure we're not trying to put a one-size-fits-all when it's not possible because it's diverse learning styles. So I appreciate all of you for what you're doing, and I'm just hoping that things will get better and more consideration is made. Thank you all for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Boyle?
We're waiting, Madam President. Yeah, we had quite a few missed calls. And now we have none.
Well, we'll wait. We'll give it at least 5 minutes at least.
I think we have a caller. Good evening, caller. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name, give us your address, and then you can make your public comment.
Sure. Hi, my name's Julianne Doherty, 7 Dartmouth Drive in Atco. I have a couple comments to make, but I just want to piggyback off of Mrs. McClendon. Dr. Poteet, I'm not sure if you understood where she was coming from with the assignments having to be turned in by a certain time and class ending at 12:47. So my student doesn't perform any extracurricular activities. However, the last class was done at 12:47, and as Mrs. McClendon said, all or most of the assignments are due by 2 p.m. That gives the children an hour and 13 minutes to complete all of the tasks for the day. And I understand that you said you had to meet some sort of criteria by making these classes longer. But I can tell you, I don't know if you sat in on our classes. If you do, majority of the classes, everyone's staring at the screen because the teachers don't have enough to fill up the time frame.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying, and at this point, if we need to make any adjustments, then I would ask that you call Ms. Morella at the high school, and we'll work it out. But at this point, I don't see anything that we are doing that will prevent our students from completing their assignments and doing any other activities they may have. So we'll take a closer look, make sure those times are accommodating to the young people so those assignments are completed in a reasonable amount of time. As I stated to Mrs. McClendon, whatever it is that I did not necessarily address directly can be fixed. All of these are situations that can be addressed, and we will address them. So we'll go back, look at it tomorrow with the building principal, and if there's any adjustments that need to be made to make sure young people have enough time. And like I said, every day at the end of the day, there's an additional hour for assistance that the students may need from their teachers. But again, caller, I understand what you're saying, but I am saying that it is something that can be corrected.
Okay, so I'm just going to go off of that again by saying the children have 8 classes and they're in the high school and they're expected to finish all of that work from 12:47 to 2 p.m. Whereas before, they at least had from 11:19 to 2 p.m. to complete all of their assignments and have them due on time. Because as soon as 2 p.m. hits, the assignment is marked as late. And I know that you're saying that there is time and there's extra time for the students to meet with teachers, but those teachers already have an overwhelming amount of students that they have to meet with. It's not well that the students are able to meet with the teachers every day. That's a lot that you're putting on the teachers to take over because you wanted to extend the school day. And you did also mention that you feel like because the children are at home, they shouldn't have there's not really a need for them to have a space carved out for eating or anything like that, but the shorter periods gave children enough time to eat, not be in front of a computer screen for so long, which is horrible for vision, get up, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, and have enough time to study and do all of their work. They no longer have that. And that's barring any extracurricular activities at all. This is just any student in the high school no longer has any of that.
So Dr. Poteet, she's, if you can make this response quick because she's over her 4 minutes.
Well, Mrs. Pitts, I understand the caller's concerns, but I'm not going to change the decision that I made. That's the point I need to make. But the other point I'm making is if there's some adjustments we need to make to accommodate those students, then we'll do that. Whatever needs to be done, we'll do that. But my decision to change or go back and change it to the way it was, that's not going to happen. So I understand the caller's concern, but I just want them to know that we need, if it's something that needs to be done internally, we'll take care of it. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I understand that you're very adamant on that, but I also think that maybe you need to be a little bit more specific as to why you changed everything. Because all you're saying over and over again is, I made that decision, I'm not going to change it, I'm going to stick with it.
Yes, but
okay, excuse me, Dr. Poteet, we do have callers on the line and we don't want to lose them. And perhaps this caller could, Ms. Doherty could very possibly give you a call in the office and you could continue this conversation with her so that she as an individual can get a better understanding?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Poteet, I will be giving you a call.
Thank you, caller. Madam President, we had a couple that called in and then left because we were still on.
Okay, well, we'll, again,
Good evening. We have a caller.
okay.
Good evening, caller. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would give your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
Hi, this is Stephanie Simmons, 7 Waltham Way, Sicklerville.
Yes, Ms. Simmons.
I had 2 quick questions for Ms. Martin and then like a question / state for the doctor. Ms. Martin, I was listening to your workshop that you were attended about the screening and stuff, and it sounded very interesting. I was just wondering when that took place.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, in reference to the workshop, we're going to pass it on, I believe, Madam President, to the Operations or Marketing Committee to do more research on that.
But I think the caller wanted to know when it took place.
Oh, the workshop took place today.
Oh, today.
This afternoon, at 1 o'clock.
Okay, and the other thing was, I don't know if I misheard you. You had read off a list of very interesting things about the new programs, new books, the engineer that you were considering to, like, I guess, build a program or whatever. And then I wasn't sure if I caught at the end. Did you say that the recommendation was not to proceed with that at this time, or did I mix up 2 different statements?
Okay, that was in reference to the education meeting, and I was talking about the engineers teaching algebra. And at this particular time, we're going to hold off. We may go and revisit that at a later date and time.
Okay, so it's not off the table. It's just being a pin putting in it.
Correct. And simply because we are in a remote state, we have to look at whether it will work better remotely or in
Right.
person.
Yeah, it would be more effective in person.
Yes.
Okay, and then my other part of this is for the good doctor. Dr. Poteet, you probably recall years ago, back when my son was in probably 7th or 8th grade, I caught you at the end of one of our 3-hour PAC meetings and brought up the concern that, we were losing some kids to CCTS about their pre-engineering program, and I basically said, "Can you tell me why my kid should stay?" And you gave an excellent argument, talk about all the phenomenal classes, the huge amount of AP classes, and you're right, we're still here, but we have an excellent experience. The high school teachers and the principals are amazing. But the one glitch that came up for our family was at the end of August, my son came downstairs with his phone and said, "I'm scheduled for this AP class and this AP class." And there was 2 originally classes offered, 2 time slots, and the school dropped one of them for lack of interest. But it then put my son in a position as a senior of having to choose between chemistry and calculus as a pre-engineering major. So unfortunately, I brought to the principal's attention and the schedule was already set and we understood, and he took something else, a different class, which is fine. But my suggestion would be going forward, we could really build on the whole, like maybe even student, parent, curriculum and teacher, whatever, cabinet, whatever you want to call it, committee, and really try to build these types of structures, like for kids that are interested in specific things like pre-engineering, and make sure that these overlaps don't happen in the future. Kind of think through what these kids need to take in their 4 years for that particular track, and then when the schedules are made, make sure something has to be dropped. Like it's not a chain reaction where other classes are then affected.
Okay, and I understand your concern. I don't know exactly what the scheduling issue was. That is something that I would have to ask Ms. Morella. You said there was a lack of interest, so I'm going to assume there were probably, less than a handful of youngsters who wanted that class. So the question would be whether or not we should still offer it. So without all of the information, I would have to have that conversation with the building principal to find out about those individual classes, how many students registered for those classes. And excuse me?
No, it wasn't a matter of they still offer the class. It was they had offered 2 periods worth, enough for 2 classes. They dropped one of the periods, which left the only remaining period conflicting with another engineering class. So I was just suggesting that maybe for next year, maybe the panel can include like the curriculum director, the principal, some teachers, and even some students and some parents, just to kind of think through and develop maybe like a true pre-engineering program where there's a certain track, and if a class has to be eliminated, we triple check and make sure it's not going to have that domino effect and affect others class choices, that any child who wants to take these particular 4, 5, 6 different classes throughout their high school career will still be able to because,
Right. Okay. I agree. I agree. Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Good evening, caller. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name and address and make your comment.
Yes, Kimberly Leach, 412 Winterberry Lane, Laker.
Okay, excuse me for 1 minute, please, caller. Could you mute your background? Because we're really unable to hear you. Hello?
Caller?
Hello.
Yes, you muted your background. Can you state your name again?
Yes, Kimberly Leach, 412 Winterberry Lane, Blue Anchor.
Kimberly Leach. Yes, Miss Leach, if you want to make your comment.
Yeah, I actually have a question in regards to attendance. With the online learning, my son's having issues where he has yet to have a day where he can get online with every single class. And there's a couple where, especially around third or fourth period, before the schedule changed, it's usually when the elementary schools were coming on, where he can't log into the class or he gets a network error message. How are they handling that for attendance? Because I've already talked to the guidance counselor and a couple of the teachers, and he's been marked absent, even though he's there.
What school are you talking about, caller?
High school.
Okay. Would you call Mr. Morella tomorrow morning so that he can address that for you?
Yes, because it seems to be a daily occurrence.
Right.
I don't know how to handle this going forward because we have no control over the network.
The building principal. And at this point, most of those day-to-day kinds of issues that our parents are having, now it's time for us to, have our building principals and administrators address those issues as soon as possible. So if you would call Mr. Morella tomorrow morning, he'll be able to help you with that.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Boyle?
Quiet on the line, Ms. Pitts.
Well, I think we've extended it several times, Ms. Boyle. And if there's no one else on the line, board members, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn public comment.
Motion, Shaw.
Thomas.
It's been moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas, to adjourn public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Mr. Long, we're moving it towards your executive session. Could there be an executive session, Mr. Long?
Sorry about that. But there was no sound. It's a very lengthy executive session tonight, if we may, Mrs. Pitt. No, I'm kidding you.
Okay.
To get a reaction out of the board, and I can see.
Okay. So there's no executive session.
I was deferred for the Cowboy fans, Mrs. Pitts.
Okay. So board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn this evening's board meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion, Shaw.
Second, Thomas.
Shaw, second by Ms. Thomas. To adjourn our meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.